Hello and welcome back to ABG Investor Days. My name is Adrian Gilani and I'm an equity research analyst here at ABG. Our next presentation will be with OrganoClick, and we are very pleased to be joined by the CEO of OrganoClick, Morten Halberg, who will give a roughly 20-minute presentation, and then hopefully we'll have time for some Q&A after that. So with that being said, I will leave it up to you, Morten.
Thanks, Adrian. And thanks for the introduction. My name is Morten Halberg. I'm CEO and co-founder of OrganoClick. 16 years ago, me and my scientific co-founders set out on a mission to replace plastics and toxic chemicals with different bio-based solutions. My two scientific co-founders, they had since the mid-90s done research in natural chemistries, looking at what is the chemistry behind a tree becoming so strong, or why does some leaves become water repellent, or why does some trees burn less good than other trees? What are the molecules doing this? This is a field of science called biomimicry, in which you look at how nature has solved different functional solutions. Based on their science, they developed a technology which we call modification of cellulosic fibers. That is, we can click on organic molecules to the surface of cellulose fibers, which are the most common material in wood, in paper, and in non-woven and textile materials. Based on this chemistry, we have developed a number of different technologies. We have a wood protection technology where we are replacing different types of heavy metals and biocides with silicon minerals. We have our chemistry that are replacing plastics in non-woven and biocomposites. And we have also our textile waterproofing technologies where we are replacing PFAS and fluorocarbons, which are hormone disruptive, with the biodegradable technology to create water-repellent textiles. Today, we are an industrial company, had revenues of 110 million last year, an increase of 14% in comparison with the year before. We have a production facility up in Täby, where we are producing our different type of chemicals. Today, we have a capacity of 10,000 tons per year, but we are right now installing a new production line, adding another 10,000 tons. Looking at the different business segments, we have a number of different customers, both coming from industrial customers to different retailers. So in the non-woven and the biocomposite business, we have customers like Duni, Ahlström Munksjö, Sharpcell, and Baux and Fredal Rydéns. So spanning from large companies to a little bit smaller industrial companies. In our functional wood and our green coatings and maintenance business, we're selling mainly to retailers within the building sector and also in paint sector, but also to different companies which are working in outdoor and sports segments. Today we have more than 800 resellers in Sweden. We have distributors in more than 15 countries and are working in mainly Europe, but also now targeting US, Canada, and also some Asian nations. If you go back into 2021 and look at the highlights from that year, which is actually now coming into place in 2022, we had in the non-woven and technical textile segment, this is a smaller segment today actually, only revenues of 2.3 million SEK. But we signed a very major deal for us last year with Duni. This is a 5-year deal where we will have revenues of more than 30 million crowns per year. And this is now scaling up during this year. We have also more than 10 customer projects in production trials at the moment. And we were, in order to be able to supply to all these customers, we added another 10,000 ton production line. So here we really see right now an upscaling of our projects. I will come back to that a little bit later, what has happened during Q1. In our consumer goods segments, green coatings and maintenance, we had a revenue increase of 17%, had revenues of 38.4 million. The major part of this revenue growth came from our brand OrganoTex. Here we launched, we're selling textile impregnation products for different retailers, but we also launched a shoe care product segment, which have been implemented in almost all our retailers. We signed new agreements with XXL, Stadium, and Hööks, and we also actually increased the growth of, we increased the sales with more than 100% of OrganoTex. One thing that affected us quite badly in 2021 was our filling capacity of cans. This can sound a little bit strange, but we ordered this machine in 2020, and due to the COVID situation, it was delayed during 2021, and that affected us quite heavily. This have now been implemented during the last 6 months, and this year we have no problem at all to deliver on the orders and the demand that we have. So this is really nice. This automated filling line also lowers our production cost for this segment. So this will be seen now during the year. We could already see it in Q1, but it's seen even more now in Q2 and Q3. Looking at OrganoTex in particular, which is the highest growing segment in this sector, if you look at this picture, you can see how many new customers we've added every year. So every year we've added almost double the number of resellers, and also then, of course, increasing the sales that we have. Last year we added Hööks, Stadium, and XXL, and we have now more than 200 resellers in Sweden, more than 50 resellers in Finland. We have now distributors in Denmark, Norway, and the Netherlands, and are now also looking at the DACH region with Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and France, which is naturally using a lot of textile impregnation as they are an outdoor-loving region. If you look at our biggest segment, functional wood, we had a growth rate of 8.4% in last year, coming up to revenue of 65.7 million. We've signed distribution agreements with Bergs Timber UK for the UK market, which we are now coming into that market. And we had a sales growth of more than 100% in Germany. Germany was a market which we entered 2 years ago, and now we really see that this is growing, and it's growing really well this year as well. One of the major things last year, though, was the launch of our second generation wood protection technology, OrganoWood Silicium HD, which adds a much improved product. It's more durable, there's easier maintenance, and we believe this can compete a lot more with the traditional pressure impregnated wood. So this is something that we are now really focusing on getting out on the market, and we start to sell it in larger and larger volumes this year. However, we grow okay last year, but we had really difficulties with raw material prices. We were affected, as most companies, by increasing raw materials, disrupted logistic chains, and also higher shipping cost. And this really affected our profitability last year, as you can see on this slide. Even though we had a steady sales growth, the gross margin went down considerably, mainly from higher raw material prices, but we also had increases in cost due to the problem with this filling line, which was delayed, which decreased our profit quite considerably last year. However, this was something we worked on really hard from Q2 until the end of the year, and in Q4 we could see that we had been able to push forward the price increase that we had to our customers, which increased our gross margin in Q4. And this also continued into Q1, as we'll see coming up. If you look at Q1, we saw a continued strong sales increase of OrganoTex, also good sales growth for OrganoWood in Germany. Another non-woven and technical textile deal was signed with Ahlström-Munksjö, which launched an agricultural textile where they use our bio-based binder and replace plastic binders that they used in the past. Duni, they started marketing their new BioDuni Soft product, and this was the start for their transition, moving away from plastic binders to completely bio-based binders. And we continue to increase production and supply of OrganoWood Silicium HD, and further improved our margins by adjusting our prices to our customers, and also actually had a positive product mix in our sales. If we move and look into the collaboration with Ahlström-Munksjö, as you remember, the deal with Duni is a deal which we approximate will be a little bit more than 30 million crowns per year. Duni have one factory where they are producing non-woven material, where they are using this bio-based binder to bind the fibers together in the non-woven materials that they are using to produce napkins. Ahlstrom-Munksjö, on the other hand, is a company producing a lot of different type of products made of non-woven. Agricultural textile is one product, but they also produce material for wet wipes. They produce materials for traditional wipes. They produce it for filter applications and so on. And they actually have 5 factories around the world where they are using binders, and in approximately the same volume as Duni is doing in their own factory. So for us, this is this customer have a very large potential moving forward. And right now we are supplying one factory in Sweden where they are now starting to use our bio-based binders. But we are also now looking at the factory in France, and they have one more factory in Europe and 2 in US where they are using binders. So right now, with the current product that they are launching, this agriculture textiles, we see that the volumes will increase during second half of 2022, but in particular in the first half of 2023. But we have now around 3 different development projects with Ahlstrom-Munksjö for completely other applications. So they are really also now on a way to replace plastic binders to bio-based solutions. If you look at the Duni deal, which is now ongoing, they are currently selling 6 articles, but they are about to launch now a number of new articles during 2022. And their major launch will be in September this year. And in their annual report, which was recently published, they also set out a timeline for when they want to become completely free of plastic binders, which will be, it's a 3-year plan, and that is, of course, this we are working with together with them now to realize. Coming from this, our volumes from this contract will increase in Q2, but in particular in Q3 after the September launch. And the Q4 will be the first quarter where we see really good volumes from the prognosis that we have. The OrganoWood, this really important launch of Silicium HD. This is a new generation wood protection technology. It's based also on silicon as the current technology, but we have completely remodified the way we are treating the wood. The impregnation process have been optimized, also the drying process, and we have invested in one of the largest high temperature drying equipment that exists today. We have tested this since 2015, so we see that we have a much higher durability compared with the current product, but also an easier maintenance for the end customers, which we believe altogether will be a much more competitive product in comparison with the traditional pressure impregnated wood. So this is really interesting now to get on the market, and we start to get up to quite good volumes in comparison with our normal wood, and the aim is to replace the traditional OrganoWood completely by the end of this year. If you then look into the figures for Q1, we improved our gross margins, and this I'm very satisfied about, that we've been able to move forward the price increases that we've had in raw materials to our end customers, and we increased the gross margin from 23% to 25%, mainly due to this price adjustments, but also due to a more effective production internally. And this, I think, will be seen even more now in Q2, when we have higher volumes due to the seasonal changes that we have in our sales demand. In terms of OpEx, it increased, but not as much as we increased the gross profit. So that also led to an improved EBITDA. So we had a positive EBITDA in the first quarter, and also an improvement in EBIT, which is of course nice to see after 2021, where we had decreasing profitability almost every quarter. So very happy that we now have changed the tide and are now moving forward with increasing sales and also improved profit. If we continue to look forward in 2022, we believe we will have a very strong sales development of OrganoTex this year, as we had last year, but also good sales increase in the German market for OrganoWood, and also, of course, the launch in the UK market. The Swedish market seems to be a little bit more cautious due to several reasons, but mainly I believe it's due to the more global environment that we see right now. We had a cold spring in April, but now we see very nice order intake from BioClean and OrganoWood when the spring finally came. So I believe we will have a quite solid sales of these two brands also in this quarter. The binder, during the second half from September, then we will see a substantial increase in sales there. So I believe this for the full year, it will be a quite good year for the binder segment as well. And we have also good progress with two other non-woven customers, except these that we have already talked about. So hopefully we will see some more customers being added during this year. And I believe also we will have a limited increase in OpEx, because we have now a good facility where we can produce our products. We don't add any more sales or marketing people, so we keep the same organization as we have right now. And this is the aim that we will work with towards profitability. So with that, I thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you so much, Morten, for your presentation. We'll go right ahead with some Q&A. And I'd just like to start off with one of the last things you mentioned about the potential new contracts within nonwoven. The last time we spoke, you said that you were finished with production tests with one customer and that you had some final production tests ongoing with another one. Could you just give us a status update on where you are in those two close contracts?
Yeah, I think we are on that. We are in this place. We have one customer where we are technically proven for their products. Now it's about the whole supply chain contracts and so on. It may take some time because of the situation that we have on the global scale, but we're pretty sure that we will have this Aktier as a customer later on.
Yeah. And a bit more of sort of a macro backdrop. As I understand, roughly 10% of global oil consumption is for plastic products or petrochemical products. And since we're in a situation right now where oil supply is becoming more and more uncertain, are you seeing sort of that accelerate the desire among your customers to move away from plastic binders?
Yeah, I would say so from a more general perspective. And in particular, we have actually benefited a little bit from this, because the oil prices have gone up so much, and the plastic prices have gone up more than what we need to increase our prices for. So we are more, we are actually gaining a little bit on momentum on this, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that Duni, they have a very concrete target of phasing out plastic in 2023 in their binders. Your current contract that you have, that's roughly 30 million per year. How much of their total production is that, and what's your potential to sort of grow within Duni, so to say?
There are some areas where we can grow more. I wouldn't say that we cannot double it, but we can grow some within Duni. There are some areas where we are not implemented yet, or where they are, which is a little bit different compared with the areas where we are. But most of the volumes we take with this contract, and then there are some more areas where we can grow.
And as far as you know, if Duni wants to phase out plastic binders by 2023, do they have another option to go with, or is it just you out there?
I think we are pretty unique at the moment. There are, if you look at the non-woven business as a whole, there are certain different type of production technologies. You have the production technologies which we are targeting is the air-laid production, the wet-laid, and the chemical bonded dry-laid nonwovens. Then there are a production technology called spunlace, which is a completely different technology, where you're using long cellulosic fibers like viscose, for example, and you entangle them by using hydro entanglement. You're spraying water jets on them. Okay. So you can get some plastic-free products with this technology, but they are not used for exactly the same application. But however, there are plastic-free wet wipes, but it's not the competing binder there. It's actually using spunlace technology. The applications which we are targeting, they require higher wet strength. But certain consumer products you can produce without binders, where you don't need so much wet strength, but not for professional uses. So we see ourselves as quite unique when it comes to bio-based binders.
Okay. And are there other nonwoven producers out there that might not be customers of yours today that have similar targets to Duni, that they want to phase out plastic binders in a few years?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe all of them really have one of these targets. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say most of them have these targets today.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, I mean, we're new. This is quite new in this industry. I mean, we are a new actor in this industry, and still working. We're working with all the big players today.
Okay. And also just a more sort of broad strategic question. You've talked before about moving towards a business model where you just sell sort of the chemical mix instead of more advanced production as you do today. First of all, what would concretely have to happen for you to move towards that kind of a business model? Because that would be quite a bit of a change compared to what you do today.
Well, in the biocomposite business area, which I didn't mention so much today, there we're really working towards this business model. We are now in discussions with potential license partner of which can produce the material, and where we can send the binders and the chemical additives that is required to produce the biocomposite. So what is required there is that we get these discussions in place and set up machinery at their facilities. But I believe that here we have a quite good momentum right now. We have some interested parties, so hopefully we can move ahead with this during this year and get out with more news later on.
Okay, and are you looking at a similar solution for the functional wood business as well, or are you more content sort of keeping that in-house?
No, I mean, we have said since long that we will look at also license partner within that segment. However, that is maybe a little bit longer process compared with the biocomposite area.
Okay, and in that case, just a final question from my side before we round up. You have a margin target, or you want to reach 20% EBIT margin in time. But say that you sort of move towards this type of a business model where you just sell the chemical product, presumably that is much more sort of high margin business. What would the margin potential be like if you move towards that type of a business model, would you say?
That is hard to say exactly, but I believe coming to 20% margin would be the first step anyway, and then we'll see what happens after that. Coming from that, we say we want to have a gross margin from variable cost of 50%. We need to add about 10% fixed production cost, so we'll have a real gross margin of around 40%, and then 20% of our sales will be other OPEX related costs like sales and marketing and research and development and administration. So this is what we believe is achievable in, let's say, a number of years from now when we have reached a little bit higher volume.
Okay. In that case, I'd like to thank you again for your presentation, and I will just leave it up to you if you have any final remarks before we round off.
No, I think it will be an interesting year, in particular to scale up our non-woven and technical textile business, our binder production. However, it is also a challenging year with the difficult situation on the raw material market that we see, but I think we learned a lot from last year, and this helps us a lot also now moving forward.